All right, I'm here now with comic writer Ahmed Amin. How are you doing today, Ahmed?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm fine.
Excellent. That's good. We're going to be talking about your new comic coming up called The Epics of Enkidu, and you have an Indigo campaign going for this. Can you go ahead and break down what the story is for this comic?
Sure. The Epics of Enkidu, to put it simply, is a story that features a superhero who happens to be autistic, and it
Hmm.
is in a way a sequel to the oldest story ever found in human history, the Epics of Gilgamesh. I'm not sure if you know that story. Um,
Familiar
it-
with it, yeah.
yeah. So mainly that story, it focuses on a guy named Gilgamesh, and he has his companion whose name is Enkidu.
Hmm.
And when I used to read that epic, I was drawn more to that character actually. Enkidu, he was more, he has more goodness in him than Gilgamesh, who started as a tyrant
Yes.
king. So yeah, so I was drawn to that character, and the story takes place in a modern setting where he's brought back out of time, and he's autistic at the same time. So he has to deal with these challenges, and his brain works so fast that everything around him moves too slow, which makes him socially odd and interacts with the world differently. But at the same time, because his brain works so fast, he can see the patterns of things. He can analyze everything. He can see the things that can happen before it happens, which can come in handy when he's in danger, but not when you try to communicate with him. So this is my approach to the story, to the old ancient epic. Yeah.
Yeah, there's really two folds coming in. So you have a spotlight on autism and a spotlight on this old ancient story that was the first basically human story we found. Uh, what was your inspiration for bringing these forward?
Well, I was inspired by my nephew, who is a very awesome autistic kid, and
Hmm.
growing up, I used to, well, I still do that actually. I like to play with him and take him out every once in a while. But I noticed like when he plays, like when he trips or something, he balances himself very quickly in a very impressive way. Kids
Oh
fall
wow.
all the time. So my nieces, my nephews, my two nieces, they broke their legs a couple of times while playing. But my nephew, I liked how he react very quickly. He's very quick on his feet, which made me think like maybe his brain works so fast, and I tried to build on to that idea. So I thought, yeah, well, that's nice. And one day I decided to dedicate something for him. So I wanted to do this comic. And because I'm a history fan and I love everything related to Mesopotamia, Egyptian mythology, Chinese mythology, and I visited the Epics of Gilgamesh, and I don't know, while I was reading that story, I saw my nephew in Enkidu. So I thought, wow, that'll be a nice way to tell, nice story to tell. That a character that is out of time to bring it back in a new story, and based it on my nephew. So yeah.
Yeah. What in Enkidu reminded you of your nephew?
Well, the way he interacts with animals, in the beginning of the story, he's a friend
Yeah.
of animals, and because they describe him in the story as odd, as uncivil, as like the people think of him as in the forest. He like he sabotaged the traps and helped the animals, and the people who trying to hunt. When they see him, they describe him as some kind of a beast, not non-human, something different to them, and they cannot talk to him or
Yeah.
whatever, and uncivil, and how he's always focused and doing whatever he does. So when he heard about Gilgamesh and how bad he is, he decided to confront him, and nothing. No matter whoever told him to do otherwise, he just keep doing it. So the way he's focused on doing one thing, it made me think of my nephew. It made
Yeah.
me think that he's not a normal person. He's just someone who's mainly focused on doing what he wants, and he does sound odd and different than the humans in the story. So I thought that I might say that he's autistic. That's why I thought about it, and yeah, I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, that will make sense. If I make this character autistic. So yeah.
And what I like about that too is it's not that he's different in a negative way in any way. He's out there freeing animals, and he was
Yeah,
raised in the wilds and was created with the intentions to take out Gilgamesh. And so you have kind of this character who's almost higher than how humanity has become. You know what I'm saying? He's actually more enlightened in many ways,
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
and just in his own way. He's just not observed the same way.
Yeah.
So I like the way it puts a good light on everybody. Have you
Yeah.
created anything in the past that has influenced you in this project here? I know you've worked on videos and things like that.
Well, yeah, actually, if you, I'm not sure if you checked my channel, but I have two episodes of a motion comic that I created. It's called Team Genesis, and it's my first, and I did actually 3 issues of that comic and published it,
Mm-hmm.
self-published it locally here, and it was the project that started my comic career. And I remember because I really wanted to tell that story, and at that time I was a student, so I tried to find someone to help me, but no one wants to do it for free or have the time to do it. So I taught myself how to
Right.
draw and how to color and do everything, and how to uh, do the video motion effect through After Effects, and how to do the video cutting in Adobe Premiere, and yeah, eventually that's my segue into the comic world. And yeah, so I did these two comics earlier, yeah. And of course, I published books. I published 4 books so far. They're already
Oh wow.
available on Amazon. Yeah, and the first book I wrote was called Sags. It's a fiction thriller with ghosts, and it's actually became a national bestseller here. So yeah,
Oh wow. That's
so as
amazing. That's great.
yeah, yeah. So yeah.
What we'll do too, if you guys want to take a look at these books and Team Genesis, we'll link those in the description so you guys can take a look at those and see what's up. Yeah. Is there any other comic creators out there, or either directors and like that have inspired your work?
Well, yeah, of course. Mainly Stan Lee inspired me, not just by his story and his world as a character. I'm drawn as
Mm-hmm.
to him as a guy who likes to tell stories to people to spread something positive in the world. Take a look at X-Men. It's a good take on
Yeah.
diversity, and I mean, uh, the list is long. We could
Of course.
there for hours telling you what are my inspirations. But uh, yeah, movie director wise, I was really drawn to Christopher Nolan's vision for the Batman. They made the character so noble, that it inspires you to be like him. And actually, Batman was the character I loved growing up when I was a kid. Um, I remember reading when I was 10 years old. I read this Batman versus Alien, and he looks very vulnerable there, and that's what I
Yeah.
love about Batman. His superpower is not his gadgets, not his anything. His superpower is power of will, and this is what I love about him. That's why he inspires me the most. So yeah,
And I think that's definitely something you could see in Enkidu in your story here. Somebody who's powered by will, somebody a little more
yeah,
grounded and relatable. It's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
great.
exactly. So.
So you've got this idea. You're inspired by your nephew and by mythology. What did it take to bring this into fruition? What was the process, and who did you get involved?
Well, writing wise, I had to visit the Epic many times, and because the oldest version of that Epic is 2000, was in 2000 BC, so it's more than 4,000 years. So I have 4,000 of history to play with to shape my story. So I visited
Yeah.
this epic again. I visited the Japanese and Chinese mythology, and I'm still looking into more mythologies because I want to incorporate to this story. So I had to do a lot of research, which I love. The most amazing part in writing is when I do the research, because every time I came up with something, oh, that works perfect with this part, and that works perfect with that part. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love that research. It's really nice. It gives me a lot of fills me with endorphins. Um, and yeah, so once I was like, all right, I have a beginning of the story, I have an ending. now I need to make it happen. So I was assigned to many Facebook artists groups and Facebook groups. So I started my search for an artist, and that's when I met Felix Torres. He's an artist from Chile, and I love his art style. It's similar to the 2000 AD comics, which I love. And We started talking, and I sent him some storyboards for the story, which I sketched myself and colored. And he took a look at it, and he agreed. I mean, he was very interested in the story. So, and yeah, that's how he became my partner in crime. Hopefully, yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So hopefully we will we'll make this story happen as when the campaign ends in Indiegogo. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start discussing your comic book. We have it's unique in the fact that we have a character we're somewhat familiar with in Enkidu. So what we need to know now is what is his goals and what are his purpose right now? What is he trying to do in the modern times?
Well, first of all, he doesn't know who he is in the beginning of the story, but yeah, so
Wow.
at first he wakes up. One of the beginning of the story, in the first issue, I'm gonna start a little further in time just to show his abilities. And then in the second issue, we'll start the story from the beginning when he came back in our time and everything. So the first thing, he has to learn how to interact with the world, how he can live. And this is the first challenge for him that I've placed in the comic. And once he finds his place in this world, uh, things will become different. That's when the villains will show their true faces, the ancient ones, and actually the main villain, which I think you're the first one who's going to hear about, is Inanna. I'm not sure if you know this. She's known in Mesopotamia as the goddess of fertility and love, but mostly forgot that she's actually the goddess of war. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, she's actually the goddess of war in actual mythologies. So she's the main one in the story, and she and Enkidu in the epic, they always see things differently. You know, she is represent the force of evil, and Enkidu is the force of goodness in the story. You know, and she's very convinced and resolved with her results. Which makes her, you know, a very very formidable enemy. You know.
Will any of his other characters come? So I'm looking at like Gilgamesh, of course, or Shamat, I think, believe his name is the woman he first that
Shamhat.
basically became Shamhat. Thank you. Yeah,
Shamhat. Yeah, Shamhat. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah,
Okay.
she's gonna be. No, it's fine. It's fine. She might play a role, but in what way I cannot explain. There's also Gabu, the goddess of healing. She plays a very central role in the story, and she's the one actually who in the fringes, you know, in my version of the story, who took care of Enkidu. Even when he was in the wild, no one knew that she was around. And for Enkidu, she's like his mother. You know, she's his
Oh,
mother
okay.
for him. He sees her as his mother. So, and in the mythology, she's always portrayed to be symbolized with hounds and dogs, because the symbol of healing at the time was dogs, because they thought that because they lick themselves and they lick their wounds, and the wounds heal because of that. So that's why it
Wow.
symbolizes as healing, a symbol of healing at ancient times. So she's one of those characters who can control hounds and these kind of things, and it kind of look, you know, it's gonna look cool, but you know, we'll see when it comes out. So
Oh no,
mainly
I
she's
like that teaser. Builds up the hype. It's
yeah.
perfect.
I mean, yeah, and yeah, I'm building on that. So yeah, and we'll see. Yeah, because there are so many
Okay.
characters that I didn't name yet for a good reason. Because in the Indiegogo campaign, there are different perks, and one of these perks is you get to pick, you get to be named as one of the main characters of the comic. So that's why I didn't name them yet, but I have them already there. So, and it's limited, not yeah, for I think 10 characters.
Understandable.
Yeah. So so I didn't name them yet.
That's an interesting perk. Yeah, I like that. That is a really good perk.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so let's look at your panel layout. What is there any kind of past comic book that has inspired you? Maybe like Watchmen, who uses the 9 panels, or maybe like modern Batman that kind of breaks the mold and spreads throughout the page. Is there anything like your layout? How's that looking?
Well, actually, I don't use any template from other creators. I usually imagine what scene would look good, So I might end up like using 9 panels, and there's a scene actually used 9 panels in the first issue. I think it was page 31. Anyhow, so yeah. I see what looks good and I choose. Sometimes just 3 panels because there's this big scene, this one scene I want it to look really big and epic. There's this scene where both Enkidu, another character called Bill, which is not his real name, but that will be revealed later.
For now.
They land up on a roof, and suddenly there will be a strike of lightning appear. I think you can see that picture in my profiles, and
very noticeable.
Yeah. That's why I had to make the panel this way bigger. So it depends on how I want the scene to look and what kind of feeling I want to give to the reader. So yeah.
It has a very cinematic feel in that way, where you could see like shots almost like these are all shots being made. Yeah.
Exactly.
That other character I'm excited to meet because it looks like I have some ideas of who I think that is. I'm pretty excited to meet them. That's gonna be really cool.
Sure.
You were mentioning before how dogs are seen as healing. There is kind of this relationship with bulls with Enkidu. Is there going to be any kind of relationship with bulls, like the bull man and stuff like that? That was once called.
There's this thing called Lama Hasu or something like that, which is the winged bull. Yeah. We're gonna see a lot of that because coming back to Inanna, the main villain, there's this part when she tries to convince Enkidu to marry her, and he like give the list of all the men she got with and what she did to them. There's this one who she turned into a wolf. There's this one who she turned into a man bird. So she's kind of a creature who makes this genetic modification on things or add things to them, So it's one of those. Yeah, she have this kind of thing, and which is why I'm in my version. They call her the Goddess of Fertility, but it's actually the reason why they call her that because she does these things to people to create different kind of hybrid people. So so we're gonna see a lot of those things, in the comic.
That's so creative because in Mesopotamian mythology there are a lot of half human, half something else, and now you've actually added like a scientific look at it. Like it's a really good way of kind of mixing the ancient world with the modern world.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever seen History Channel 2, they show you how the ancient world is made by ancient aliens. So it's not difficult. Yeah, and if you read the Eternals, and if you've seen the Mayan statues, there are some things that looks actually like that came out of our world. So it's so it's another thing I like to add in my book. So yeah, but it's not alien. To be
no.
So yeah, it's gonna make sense later.
That would be a good twist. Maybe 20 issues in, all of a sudden there's aliens involved.
Yeah.
So we talked about how cinematic these panels were. Was there any other inspiration for your art style? And this is the art style that you developed over time, correct?
Well, as I mentioned, this sketch and the ink was done by Felix Torres, and the reason why I picked him is the art style itself. It stood out for me because when I was growing up, the art style I really was drawn to was the 2000 AD art style. The Judge Dredd and the other guys of that. So when I saw that style, I thought, that looks really good, for characters that I'm trying to portray, and that's my inspiration. And coloring wise, I mean, it's like cinematography to me. I'd like specific things to pop out. So usually I like to use the yellow light, and the shadows should be more blue, which is the contrast to the yellow. And this, yeah, this is the look I like to go for in most of my comics. So, yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job with the coloring because you could see there's a good level of shading, and yet you have when they're on the rooftop that scene again. Enkidu stands out well, in his hospital gown. It stands out well
Yeah.
against the blue and dark colors in the background. It really looks, and then you can almost feel the rain and the lightning strikes and the thunder in the background.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Thanks.
Of course. So we have the Indiegogo that we're going to be linking to. Can you explain what the campaign is and what your goals are after this is achieved?
Well, sure. Campaign will start on the 15th of May, and it's going to run for 30 days. Try to raise as much as we can. I mean, if we hit the normal goal, we will release just one issue at the beginning. But if we reach beyond that, I'm gonna do the first and the second issues. And this is my main goal for the story. And I also want to release this book with information for autism organization and fundraising. So in a way, I wanna use this comic not just to tell an engaging story, but also to raise awareness, So about autism. So yeah, and this is the other thing that motivates us to push that campaign, and hopefully we will be successful in that goal. Yeah.
That is a really good cause and a good way to bring notice to autism. It's really good.
Yes.
And I want to clarify that second issue is basically the look back, more of the origin story, correct?
No, actually, it's not a far look back. It's the origin as how he started in our world. So the first issue, you're gonna find him coming in a train, and this arriving in a train to a city, and this symbolizing the arrival of the hero to the story,
Right.
And things happen, and we get a glimpse of his superpower, and he finds himself in trouble, and he's in danger from people who try to attack him, and that's when we see how he acts when he's in danger, what he's gonna do in that situation, which I'm not gonna spoil. So that's the first issue. Yeah, that's the first issue. The second issue is gonna start with Enkidu waking up near an ancient ruin in Iraq. It's a place called the Zeggurats, and he's taken to the hospital, and this is where the story starts. The second issue starts. It starts from the beginning of Enkidu's arrival to our timeline. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds great. Again, we'll have the Indiegogo page in the links below, guys, including the books on Amazon and Team Genesis. But say everybody wants to follow you on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. What's your handle?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter. My account is Hero Autistic, and on Instagram it's Hero_Autistic. You can check me out on Facebook. I have a group dedicated for the comic. It's called the group is the Epic of Enkidu. You cannot miss it when you visit that group. You can check my other Instagram account, which is A_H_MN, and you can see what kind of person I am. I like to post some things about my life with my wife. My wife is Chinese. So we have this thing called because I'm Iraqi and she's Chinese, our nickname is Chiraki. So we have this So we have this thing called Chiraki log, and it is these funny conversation that happens every once in a while between me and her, and it's So I always post about that every once in a while. Yeah. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks.
That sounds fun. Make sure you guys follow. I'm looking forward to hanging out on all the other accounts as well. That's pretty great. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today, Ahmed, and sharing your comic book, The Epics of Enkidu.
Oh, the pleasure is mine.
And we're going to follow up on this too. We'll let you guys know when this campaign is met, and then we want to get the second issue as well. So we're going to make sure to go past that as well. So that is excellent, guys. Thank you again for joining.